Hello, my name is Nicholas Gane, and I'm going to talk to you about my TCS paper, Competition, A Critical History of a Concept. This paper is part of an ongoing project to think closely and historically about what we mean by the term neoliberalism. It's often been argued by thinkers such as Dardo and Laval that competition is the universal principle of what we might call neoliberalism. The inspiration for this type of position comes from Michel Foucault's lectures on biopolitics, which are a fantastic starting point for thinking historically about what we might think of as neoliberal reason. In line with some of my previous publications, I've tried to deepen the historical complexity of the account offered of neoliberalism by Foucault in his biopolitics lectures. And in many ways, this paper is a continuation of that project. One of the interesting things about Foucault's lectures is they tell us very little about the 19th century. And for me, this is where the concept of competition really does start to emerge discursively in a range of different disciplinary settings across time. So this paper tries to explore that history, which has largely been neglected, not simply within writings on neoliberalism, but also more generally within sociology and political economy. And what I tried to do is to map out four discursive areas historically. The first one really deals with the emergence of concepts of competition through political economy, roughly from the outset of the 19th century through to roughly 1870. The second one looks at the emergence of mathematical forms of dealing with questions of competition, which is then treated mainly formally and logically and is used as a heuristic device. Thirdly, I look at the late 19th century, mainly from about 1850 onwards, to explore the idea of competition as something that's natural. And of course, the key thinker here is Herbert Spencer. And finally, I look at the emergence of sociology at the outset of the 20th century and the way that people like Simmel and Weber dealt with questions of competition really quite thoroughly in some of their methodological and substantive writings. I use this as a foundation for thinking about neoliberalism and the way that different neoliberal figures and thinkers picked up different aspects of addressing questions of competition from these different discursive formations. And again, Foucault's lectures are a sort of stepping off point for doing this. And I look at three main sort of national trajectories here: Austrian, German, and North American, to see the way that these different sort of trajectories picked up different aspects of sort of liberal conceptions of competition that I've already mapped out as emerging through the 19th century. The other thing that's really important here in doing this is to show that these national trajectories of neoliberalism aren't homogeneous and they develop and change across time and from thinker to thinker. So I try and deepen Foucault's history of neoliberalism here by looking more closely at some of these national trajectories and how they are not only sort of in tension with each other, but that I look at the tensions within these trajectories as well. And the purpose of this exercise really, ultimately, is to deepen our historical understanding of what neoliberalism is, to think about some of the fracture lines within the neoliberal project, and to think about competition as something that is problematic and also needs to be problematized, not simply in the present, but historically. And this, I argue, leads to a kind of deeper engagement with the neoliberal project and with what might be called neoliberal reason.